Darci's Corner. It's Saturday, January 21st, 2023. Still in Alberta. I've had some interesting developments in life, and things are moving along. It really is important. I actually don't know if anything I say is important, to be honest with you. But I recently had a conversation with a relative who I'm going to go and visit quite shortly. And I was just making arrangements before I went and drove all that way. They're 12 hours away. And I wanted to find out where I was going to stay and if I was even going to be welcome there or not. And I was quite welcomed. The conversation did go quite well. But he kept mentioning to me that nothing in my childhood ever indicated to them that I was gay. Which is, it's funny and bizarre that they're still holding on to those stereotypes. First of all, I've done these Darci's Corners now for years, and my first few Darci's Corners, I explained the whole thing from my childhood till adulthood about how this particular phenomenon affected me. But the thing is, I'm not alone. There are millions of people like me who either hid their gender or their orientation for like decades. And the reason that we hid it is because it wasn't socially acceptable to let people know. And so we just would hide. Or maybe we were ashamed. Because the messages in the 80s and 90s, which is when I was a child and a youth, was that if you were gay, it was against God, you were going to get AIDS, and you were going to die. That was the predominant message that was out there in the media and in the general world. And we didn't have the internet in the 80s and 90s. I mean, the internet was invented in the 90s, but it wasn't widely available. And even when it did become widely available, there was so much chaos. There wasn't a resource like YouTube where you could go and find central information, or like Reddit. Those are two very good sources of information. If you want to learn about the LGBTQ community and how it exists and why it exists and how it affects people differently, those are two very good resources. But we didn't have those in the 80s and 90s. So we had no way of communicating with each other, really. Because, man, the rumors and if people knew when I was a child, when I was a youth, that I felt the way that I felt about men or boys or whatever, like, my life would have been horrible. And my life was already pretty horrible because I was a social outcast. My dog is feeling especially rambunctious today, and she is just... She loves me, that's why she bites me. Anyway. But that was my youth, and so I wasn't the stereotypical gay child. Also, I'm not really gay in that sense. I mean, I am, I guess, a version of gay, but am I gay if I'm a woman who likes men? I don't really think so. But I don't fit neatly into a gender category. I don't fit neatly into an orientation category. I like some men, not all men, and I also like women. Some women, not all women, but in general I like women. But with men it seems to be very specific. Like, I'll like that man or this particular man, but I don't find men in general to be attractive. But I find some men to be attractive. And I find myself, in general, attracted to individuals with penises. That does not mean that person's a man. The person could be a trans woman like myself. There's all sorts of there's variations of the gender spectrum, but I am attracted to that. Um, but I couldn't tell anybody when I was in high school. That wouldn't have worked out well, and I didn't know what to do with it once I was out of high school because I was with my girlfriend who had my baby, and then I married that person, and even though we were in kind of I had an open situation with that marriage, but I mean that ultimately contributed greatly to the downfall of that marriage. Um, and so then when I found my next partner, um, I wasn't sure I wanted to go that route again. And I honestly wasn't sure if I wanted to date women or men. I just knew that it would be easier to date a woman. I knew that it would be more socially acceptable to date a woman. And I'm much more easily attracted to women in general than I am to men. But again, if I'm a woman attracted to women, well, that's pretty gay. And, nothing wrong with that either. I do find it challenging to find partners who are interested in my combination. I know that those people exist out there. It's just where the heck do I find them? And then if I do find them, that doesn't mean that we're compatible. But anyway, the point is that it doesn't matter if I fit the stereotypical mold of a gay person growing up or not. There is no mold. You can't tell what's inside a person's head unless they tell you. The reason nobody knew I was attracted to people with penises, I didn't tell anybody. The reason nobody knew I was trans or a girl on the inside, it's because it was on the inside. On the outside, all you saw, if you saw me as a child, you saw a little boy watching Rainbow Bright or My Little Pony, or carrying his Cabbage Patch doll, or playing with his tea set. That's what you saw on the outside. On the inside, when I was doing those things, I was me. I was a little girl playing with her dolls, having her tea parties, watching My Little Pony. That was me. But I'm gender fluid. So sometimes I was a little boy watching He-Man, playing with his G.I. Joes and Ninja Turtles and whatever else had at the time. Like, I'm still both. The technical term for what I am today is gender fluid non-binary. But as I quoted in my little comedy stand-up I did, I'm what I would call a zer. I'm not really him anymore, and I'm not her all the time. I prefer she, her pronouns. I prefer she, her. But if people started calling me a zer, if that caught on, that wouldn't bother me at all, because I'm definitely a zer. The parts of me that are feminine are very feminine, and I want to increase those parts, and that's what I want to be seen by the world. But I'm not ashamed of my masculine side or my masculine past. I became the best version of a man I knew how to be. It's just, that wasn't me. That was me putting on this shield, or putting my masculine side forward and hiding my real self. Now that I'm free, now that I'm out in the world, I don't ever want to hide again. So yeah, I'm a zer. I've always been a zer. I've always been both. And I'm just much more comfortable in my skin now. Anyway, Darci's Corner. Peace.